Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm really excited because today we're going to talk about my summer TBR or some of the books that I'm hoping to get to this summer. We're definitely in that kind of transitional time now, going from one season to the next, and spring was great, but I feel like I'm actually quite excited for summer. It usually is my least favorite season, but I feel like summer reading is a lot of fun, and I'm excited to kind of share with you the books that I'm hoping to get to. Before we kind of get into all the books that I'm hoping to read, obviously we have to set up my journal, which I'm really excited about. I made a spread for my spring TBR, which was a lot of fun, and so it's time to make one for my summer TBR. I don't really have that much of a plan for kind of how I want to make this spread. I just want it to be very colorful, obviously kind of match the season. So we're gonna go ahead and do that first, and then we'll come back and talk about all the books that I'm hoping to get to this summer, and then also some of the new releases that are coming out over the next few months that I'm really excited about. So let's go ahead and get into the journaling. So before we get into talking about all the books that I want to read this summer, I feel like we should do a little bit of like a spring reflection and kind of check in how I did on my spring TBR, which I did not do very good on my spring TBR. I feel like I never really am that successful with my TBRs, but this probably is the lowest success rate I've ever had. I put 9 books on my spring TBR, and of the 9 books, I've read 1 of them. To be fair, I did start a couple of them and I guess I just wasn't in the mood, but I still do want to read them, of course. A lot of these are books on my physical TBR that I'll get to eventually. I just didn't get to this springtime, which is a little bit sad. So I am hoping for a little bit more of a higher success rate for my summer TBR. And honestly, I have a really good feeling about this list. I'm really excited about all these books. So let's talk about all the books that I'm hoping to get to this summer. I kind of think of summer as like June, July, August, maybe a little bit of September as well. And I kind of have these separated into 3 different categories, and the 3 categories are adventure, fantasy series, just kind of summer vibes, and then new releases. But let's start with the 2 fantasy series that I'm hoping to start this summer. One of my kind of summer reading goals, I guess, as well, which we can kind of talk about. I don't have any specific summer reading goals really besides completing my summer TBR, reading more of my physical TBR, and then this 3rd reading goal, which would be to finish some of the series that I'm in the middle of. I'm not in the middle of a whole lot of series, but a lot of them I'm almost done with, as in I have like 1 book left to read. So I am hoping to kind of finish some of the trilogies that I'm in the middle of. The Scholomance series, the Shades of Magic series, the Crimson Moth duology. I did just recently finish the Little Thieves trilogy, and there are a couple more series that I am hoping to kind of either progress through or finish. But the 2 books that I put on my summer TBR list are actually 2 books that I'm wanting to start for new series that I'm wanting to start, and I'm really excited about them. So the first book on this list is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I do think that I'm quite a big R.F. Kuang fan because I've read Babel and I've read Yellowface, and I loved them both so much, and this is her other series that I've yet to read. I've been intrigued and kind of wanted to read the series for a long time now, but I've always been a little bit hesitant because it's supposedly quite gruesome and gory and violent, and typically that's not what I tend to reach for when it comes to just reading in general. I feel like sometimes when I read books and it is a little bit hard to read some darker themes, I can kind of like comfort myself saying that it's fiction, that it's not real, it didn't actually happen. But when there is a historical fiction series based off of events that did actually happen, it does make it a little bit harder to read, I think. But I think maybe that's also a reason why it is really important to read historical fiction, especially those kind of more violent parts of history that maybe aren't talked about as much. My mom is a huge R.F. Kuang fan. She's read all of her books. She loves the Poppy War series, and she told me that I have to read it. And history is my major, and I feel like I can't just like not read the parts of history that are too hard to read. That doesn't mean that they're not important to learn, so that's kind of my other motivation for reading it. And honestly, I think I'm just really going to like it because I've loved R. Kuang's other books, and I'm also trying to read all of her books because I'm so excited for her new release. The other series that I really want to start this summer is The Lord of the Rings. This is a bit of like a classic, I guess, and I feel like it's kind of criminal that I haven't read this yet. I did actually listen to most of the audiobook last October when I was going on a road trip and just never ended up finishing it. And so I feel like it's time to read it. When I think of summer, specifically like summer books, I really think of like high fantasy adventure type series. I do feel like I know the story pretty well. I've watched the movie several times. I love the movies and I love the story. I was really enjoying listening to the audiobooks of it a couple of months ago, but I think it is a series that I would like to read physically and kind of just really immerse myself in, and I think I am going to really enjoy it. I mean, I do feel very like familiar with the material and with the story, and obviously it's just a classic. I feel like this is the series that kind of really invented the genre of modern fantasy, which is my favorite. So those are the 2 series that I'm hoping to start this summer. The next couple books that I want to talk about are just kind of like summer vibe books, which I didn't really know what to call these. Some of these books have actually been specifically saving for summer, and when I think of summer, I definitely think of very nautical type things. When it comes to fantasy, a lot of like ocean-y, siren, pirate type of things, and then also just books that I think would be good to read in the summer. Obviously I haven't read them yet, so I'm not sure, and once I read them I'll definitely let you know if I think that they are very like perfect for summer. But these are just kind of the books that I'm wanting to get to soon anyway. So first I have a couple YA nautical kind of oceany fantasies that I have had for a while and kind of have been actually saving for this time of year. The first one is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This is actually, I think, one of the oldest books on my physical TBR, and I've just been saving it for the summertime. I did start reading this a couple years ago, and I was really enjoying it, so I'm really excited to get to this. I believe this is a darker Little Mermaid retelling, and from what I remember, it follows around a kind of monstrous siren character. I think she like rips out hearts or something like that, and then the other main character is a pirate slash prince type of figure, I guess. This is one of the books I have been just really excited to read this summer, and I think that this will be a lot of fun. And then the other kind of nautically YA fantasy book that I want to get to is Fable by Adrienne Young. This is a beautiful fairy loot edition of it. I found it at my used bookstore for a really great deal, so I had to pick this up. This is another book that I have been saving for summer specifically, and there is another Adrienne Young book that I also want to read this year, so we'll get into that one in a second. But I have kind of talked recently about how I've been getting into Adrienne Young. I've been reading some of her adult books. I read Spells for Forgetting, and I read her new release, A Sea of Unspoken Things. This is her YA series. I don't think it was her debut series, but she did, I think, originally start out writing YA fantasy, and this is I believe it's maybe a duology, and then there's like a third kind of spin-off book. I'm really intrigued to see what I think about Adrienne Young's YA books, because I don't really know what to think just yet of her adult books, and I've heard really great things about this series, so I'm excited. I really like duologies, so I think this will be good. It has some reviews from Stephanie Garber, Adeline Grace, big names in the YA fantasy genre, and some authors that I really enjoy as well, so I'm excited to see what I think about this one. I definitely will be going to the beach at least once this summer, and it's always just like so much fun to read books like this while you go to the beach. It's so atmospheric, so summery, and I'm really excited for some kind of oceany, beachy reads. But the other books that I have for my kind of summer vibes category on my summer TBR are just books that I kind of want to read this summer and I feel like match the season really well. So the first one is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is a recent acquisition from mine. I just bought this, I think, last week, and I've kind of talked about recently, I think in my spring vlog, how I have been really wanting to get more into historical mysteries. I think it's one of my favorite genres, and this one is really intriguing because it's historical mystery, but it's also fantasy, and that just sounds so good to me. I honestly don't know what it's about. I think it's compared a little bit to Sherlock Holmes. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure. I also don't know if this has anything to do with summer, but I just feel like the cover looks very fun. I've heard really great things about it, and I just honestly really want to read this, and I kind of want to work my way through some more historical mysteries, and this is kind of just the next one on my list. I'll let you know if this has any like summery vibes to it. Honestly, it's just a book that I want to read soon, which is why I put it on the list. And then next, this is another oceany book that I'm excited to get to. This is actually, I think, the only book that I'm carrying over from my spring TBR, but that is, of course, Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This will be my first Brandon Sanderson book. I don't know that this is necessarily the best place to start. I think people tend to recommend starting with Mistborn, and I think there's some sort of like, is it the narrator in here that's a character from a different series? I don't know, but I feel like if I hold off and like continue to be overwhelmed by how many books Brandon Sanderson has, I'll never start, so I just kind of want to start somewhere. This is the book that I have of his, and it also kind of seems like the book that's the most up my alley. I feel like I don't have the most experience when it comes to like adult high fantasy, but this is cozy fantasy, and I'm really intrigued to see what I think about it. I think it's a little bit more of a humorous approach to cozy fantasy, and I do really love cozy fantasy as a genre, but the books itself in that genre are kind of hit or miss to me. I'm excited to see what I think about this one. I feel like I've heard mixed reviews on it. It's the type of book that maybe isn't for everybody. It's compared to The Princess Bride and Stardust by Neil Gaiman, which is very intriguing. It does kind of remind me of The Princess Bride, just like based off of the cover, and I really love that movie, so I'm intrigued. I think it has something to do with some sort of like ocean, and the ocean is kind of deadly because there's a fungus or something. I don't really know what this is about. I think our main character Tress goes on some sort of quest. I don't know, it sounds fun. And then the last book on my summer vibes category is a book that I currently have on hold from the library and I think should come in sometime this summer, and that will be really fun to read. And that is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young, who I've been talking about a lot recently. I feel like this is probably the book of hers that seems the most up my alley, and I'm surprised that I haven't read it yet. Maybe it's kind of a good thing that I started reading her other books that I feel like aren't as highly rated. This is the book that I see the most love for. I believe it has some sort of historical fiction element. Adrienne Young's adult books definitely have a really nice kind of blend of genres, which I really enjoy. There's historical fiction, there's mystery, there's a little bit of fantasy, magical realism. It's just really, really fun, and this one sounds really good. I think it takes place on a flower farm. It also kind of reminded me a little bit of, just from like reading the premise of Wayward by Amelia Hart, which I really loved. And that book is historical fiction with a little bit of like a nature fantasy element, and then a bit of like a generational women's story. And I've been intrigued to read The Unmaking of June Farrow to see if it could like be compared to Wayward in a way. I think there also might be some sort of like time travel element to the story. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm excited to see what I'm going to think. From what I've read of Adrienne Young thus far, her books are very easy to read, very immersive as well. I do really like her writing, and I'm just intrigued. I feel like this is the story that kind of piques my interest the most. I don't want to go in with like too high expectations, but I am really, really excited for it. This is a book that I've been meaning to get to for a long time, so I'm just very excited, and I feel like it also would be the perfect summery read. And then the last two books on my summer TBR are two new releases that I'm really excited about, but we'll also talk about some other new releases. The summer releases over the next few months, June, July, August, are some of my most anticipated releases of the year. Some of my favorite authors are coming out with books, and I am so excited. Like, these are the types of new releases that I will be either pre-ordering or going to the bookstore to get on the day they come out, because I'm so excited for them. So let's first talk about the two that I put on this official list. Okay, first one, we have A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sengu Mandana. I am so excited about this one. This comes out on July 15th. I really, really loved The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which is this author's other book. The cover is so pretty. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite covers I've seen in a while, to be honest. And I'm just so excited about it. It says, a whimsical and heartwarming novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. It sounds so good. It sounds very similar to this Very Secret Society, so I think I'm really going to enjoy this one. I don't really want to know too much about it going into it. I just know that I really loved the first one, and I've been looking for books that kind of have that same feeling to them. I think there was a bit of like a heartwarming sweetness to the first one that I really, really enjoyed, and a bit of a depth to it that I feel is lacking a little bit in some of the other cozy fantasies that I've read. So that is the first book on my list for my summer TBR excited releases. And then the other one that I am also so excited to get to is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. This actually comes out so soon. This comes out on the 10th of June, and I'm so excited about it. I've talked a lot about my kind of V.E. Schwab journey this year. I've been reading a lot of her books this year. I've read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is my favorite book of the year so far, The Vicious duology, trilogy, the two books that are out right now, and then I'm currently working my way through the Shades of Magic trilogy. This one sounds so good. I don't know too much about it except that it has vampires in it, I think. I think it might also have a historical aspect to it and kind of take place in multiple times. I don't really know. I kind of want to go into this book somewhat blind as well. I've heard good things from the people who have received ARCs, so I'm very intrigued. I will probably be going to the bookstore to get this when it comes out. So those are the two books that I put on my official summer TBR, but there are a lot of other summer releases that I'm really excited about, so we'll kind of go through these. One that is maybe one of my most anticipated books of the year is A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranak. This comes out on June 24th. Where the Dark Stands Still was one of my favorite books that I read last year, and that is A.B. Poranak's debut novel. It's a YA kind of historical fantasy, fairy tale, gothic, Studio Ghibli-esque, whatever it was so good. I loved it so much, and I feel like ever since I've read that, I've been looking for other books that kind of have that same energy to it, that same atmosphere, and I'm just really, really excited to see what I think about her next book. And this one sounds so good. I feel like that book was a little bit more kind of lighter, Studio Ghibli-esque. This one, it seems like more kind of leaning into the gothicness of her writing. There were definitely some gothic tones to Where the Dark Stands Still, but this one seems like it's going to be just all out a little bit darker, and I'm honestly really excited about it. I believe this is a Swan Lake retelling. I love anything to do with Swan Lake, to be honest. It's a really fascinating story. This one is sapphic as well, which I feel like also just works really well for the overall premise of Swan Lake. The little like blurb on Goodreads is pretty vague, which I kind of like, but I think there's a little bit of like a sorcerer, a heist, impersonating a princess, infiltrating a palace, stealing the king's enchanted crown. It just sounds so good. There's going to be a bit of a castle setting, a bit of a fantasy, sorcery aspect to it. Somebody also said that it has like Phantom of the Opera undertones as well, which also just sounds so good. That kind of romantic, gothic sadness, I guess. I just truly loved Where the Dark Stands Still so much that I will probably read anything this author writes. It's just exactly my book taste and what I'm looking for in a story, and I think this one is going to be really good too. I'm really excited about it. Another book that I'm also really excited about is The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst. Kind of a little bit opposite to what I last talked about, you know, the gothic Swan Lake. This is a cozy fantasy. I think this is the sequel to The Spell Shop, which came out last summer, and I really loved that book. I think it's another really great cozy fantasy that had some really heartwarming themes in it and just such a cozy, magical atmosphere. And this is the sequel, I believe, but it might be more of like a connected standalone type of thing because it looks like it follows around different characters. The cover is also so beautiful. I feel like the covers of all the books I've been talking about are just absolutely stunning. It comes out on July 15th. Yeah, this one looks really cute, very cozy, and I really loved The Spell Shop, so I think this one will also be really cute. In August, T. Kingfisher also has a new book coming out on the 19th called Hemlock in Silver, which is a fairy tale retelling. I believe it's a Snow White retelling, which sounds so good. I feel like T. Kingfisher stories already naturally have a little bit of like a vintage fairy tale feel to them, but this one is like actually a fairy tale retelling, and I'm excited to see her kind of humor, and she has a bit of like a gothic side as well. I have really been enjoying T. Kingfisher over the past maybe like year, and I think she just has a very unique way of writing that I really enjoy reading. She also has so many books. I think maybe like 2 or 3 coming out this year. This is the one that I'm probably the most excited about, but one of the genres on Goodreads that it's listed under is horror, which I'm also intrigued. So is this like a little bit of a darker retelling? I'm not entirely sure. Another one that I'm excited about is one I haven't read anything from this author before. I think she is known for writing A Deal with the Elf King, which I feel like I've definitely heard of before, but this book is called Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. It comes out on July 22nd. It looks like it is a romantasy, dark academia. Honestly, that's all I need to know. That sounds really intriguing to me. It says, a woman who wields magical tarot cards lands herself in a false engagement with the headmaster of a mysterious academy. That sounds really good. It's going to take place in some sort of academy, have that kind of dark academia-ness to it, and then also some sort of magical tarot card system. Okay, and then the last book that I have on my list for summer new releases, this one comes out on June 17th, is A Far Better Thing by H.G. Perry. I am so excited about this one. H.G. Perry wrote The Scholar in the Last Fairy Door, which I read last year, and I really liked that one, honestly. It was a very interesting read. I feel like I haven't read anything quite like that before, and I think H.G. Perry is most well known for the Magician's Daughter book, which is one I think I have on the Kindle that I just haven't gotten around to yet, but she writes, I think, mainly like historical fantasy, which is my favorite genre, and on Goodreads it says that this is a standalone portal fantasy where Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell meets A Tale of Two Cities in a heartrending fantasy of fairy revenge set during the French Revolution. Does that not sound so good? That sounds so good. I am just really excited. I liked the overall like combination of the historical fantasy and then with that like fairy aspect that was in The Scholar in the Last Fairy Door, and so this one, it seems, also is going to have some sort of fairy aspect to it. Also, I'm really excited to read the kind of French Revolution setting. I feel like that's an era of history that I'm very interested in and really enjoy learning more about, so I'm excited to see kind of what she does for this one. So those are all the books that I have my eye out for this summer. Definitely let me know if there's any other summer releases that you're excited about. I'm so excited about all of these. I feel like they are all just like the exact type of books that I love to read from some of my favorite authors. And that's also pretty much it for my summer TBR, the little journal with me. I feel like I'm in a big reading mood, and these books I think I have very high hopes for as well. So hopefully we can have a little bit higher of a success rate for this TBR than my spring one. But definitely let me know if there are any books on your list that you're hoping to get to this summer or winter if you're in the southern hemisphere. here. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Bye!